You're listening to the Lawyer Lifestyle Podcast with Chicago attorney Dave Scriven-Young. This podcast is brought to you by Anchor, which is the app that I use to record and edit the Lawyer Lifestyle Podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, so let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so that it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 206 of the Lawyer Lifestyle Podcast for May 23rd, 2020. My name is Dave Scriven-Young, an attorney from Chicago, Illinois, and I'll be your host. This podcast takes you on a daily journey to discover key principles in the areas of marketing, sales, and leadership for attorneys. So what we're doing is we're going through the characteristics that John C. Maxwell looks for in a mentee. And so the second point that he raises is, what is this person's capacity? And this comes from Maxwell's book, Leadershift. And he has 7 different, what he calls capacities, that he looks for in a mentee. And he wants someone that has the potential to grow in all 7 areas. So I think what you want to find is somebody who has, I think, a good starter in each of these and has not only a capacity, but I think a willingness to grow in all of these areas. So the first is someone who has an energy capacity. This is an ability to push on physically. And so I don't think he's talking about, in terms of what they can do physically, because I'm sure that he would take on anyone of any sort of, anyone with any physical differences. But what he's talking about is energy. Is it someone who has a high energy or someone with a low energy? He's looking for somebody who is able to get through a day and not just be physically wiped out, that it's too taxing to go on, but somebody who is willing to take on more tasks, to be, when in a social environment, someone who's able to thrive in such an environment, but also someone who's going to see a task from start to finish. So that's an energy capacity. Second is an emotional capacity, someone who has an ability to manage their emotions. So as you know, I talk a lot about emotional intelligence, and one of the key emotional intelligence skills is someone who's able to manage their emotions, somebody who's not yanked around by things that happen from day to day, from moment to moment, but is able to stay even keeled, not to go off on somebody, but able to just manage what's going on from moment to moment. So that's emotional capacity. Then a thinking capacity. Someone who's able to think effectively, someone who has the intellectual capacity to do whatever job you're going to put in front of them, to be able to think through problems critically, and that's the thinking capacity. Then is a people capacity, so someone who's able to build relationships. As I've talked about, and it's no secret that lawyers are in the relationship game. So when people look for mentees, they want someone who's able to build relationships. And, people build relationships in different ways. Some people are the golfing, glad handling, wine tasting type person. Then you have another person who may be maybe a little more introverted, but is able to build relationships in a different way. Then you have people who are able to develop relationships online or at conferences, or, there's many different ways to build relationships, but you want someone who's willing to take on more relationships, because that's how we develop ourselves, that's how we learn from others, and that's how, one of the strategies for building business. Then you have a creative capacity. This is somebody who has the ability to see options and to find answers. And we actually did a couple of podcast episodes on how to find the creative within our practices. And so you want somebody who is able to, have a vision and to think through things creatively, looking for creative solutions to problems, and not just thinking inside of the box. But you want people who, think outside the box, think creatively about the problem that they have in front of them. Then there's a production capacity. That's the ability to accomplish results. That's when you're given a task, you're able to see things through. You're able to devote the energy and the time to do what is being asked. And again, I think I talked about this yesterday in terms of being hungry and being open to what your mentor is saying. I think this fits in. I think this production capacity fits in very well. As I said, you have to be the type of person that is able to go all in with a mentor. I mean, obviously, the mentee is choosing the mentor just as much as the mentor is choosing the mentee, right? Because if you're going to devote a lot of time with somebody, as a mentee, you want to make sure that your mentor is somebody who has, we talked about, ladder building. You want your mentee to be somebody who has climbed that ladder because you're following this person, both in tactics and in, just you're following this person as an example. So you want to make sure that if you're going to invest your time, your effort, and your production into something, into following this person, that this person has gotten results. That this person is somebody who is a good example, both in terms of their own production levels, but also their integrity as well. So you don't want to just follow someone blindly. So I think it's really important, and I think we've talked about this. You want to make sure that it's a good fit, that the mentee is a good fit for the mentor, that the mentor is a good fit for the mentee. It has to be a good relationship for both sides. And so you're looking for someone with that production capacity. And then finally, a leadership capacity, the ability to lift and to lead others. So remember that, the mentor's job is you're going to help them to build their own ladders, to allow them to follow you and to be able to show them the way, essentially, to be that example for them. And so they can, fly the coop and go out on their own and be independent. So if you were a mentee looking for a mentor, these are the capacities that you want to show the mentor that you have. If you found the right person to be the mentor and you're excited to ask them to mentor you, these are the things that you want to show them. And then on the other side, it's the same way. The mentor wants to look for these 7 capacities within the mentee. And so for your daily action item today, I want you to think about sort of like which of these capacities do you think you need help on? And if you're a mentor, I want you to think about which of these capacities do you typically find lacking within mentees, and would love to hear about that. So I invite you to join in the discussion. You can leave me a voicemail by going to anchor.fm/attorneydsy and hitting that message button. You can also leave me a comment for me to play on the show or a question for me to answer on the show. You can leave me a comment or question also on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at AttorneyDSY. I'm also on LinkedIn. So let me know if you have any comments about this episode. Tell me what you think about this podcast or give me a topic you'd like to hear about. This podcast is on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, TuneIn, and Anchor, so please be sure to subscribe and rate and review. I also want to invite you to the next session of the Lawyer's Emotional Intelligence Book Club. We're continuing with Dr. Chatterjee's book, The Stress Solution. The next session will be Wednesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. Central Time. You can find out more at facebook.com/lawyerseq. Have a great day or night, and remember to fight for the lifestyle that you want and become the rainmaker that you need to be.